Hello, everybody. Welcome to Finding Peace Within with Lisa. I am your host, Lisa L. Dalton. And as I always say, I thank you for tuning into the podcast. If you're watching me via YouTube, hello. Hit that subscribe button, hit that bell, tell your friends, like, subscribe, and share. And if you're listening to it on Anchor and any other of your podcast listening stations, share it with your friends. We're still talking about So You Want to Be a Wife. Yeah, So You Want to Be a Wife. If you haven't listened to the last two podcasts, please tune in. Week 1, we have Shayla Davis giving the single woman's perspective of marriage. Then we had Miss Sydney Starr Hancock talking from the newlywed side of you in being a wife. And today I have another friend.
Hey, Miss Lisa.
Miss Natalie Hancock.
Hey, Miss Lisa.
Welcome to Finding Peace Within, Natalie.
I'm so excited to be here.
I'm glad you're here. But look, before we get into the podcast, a couple of things we need to do. If you haven't gotten my new book, you got to get it. It is on Amazon. The title is Today's Investment, Tomorrow's Return. 25 personal things that would add value to your life. Hey guys, there's some things that you really need to do, like working out, eating right, and going to the dentist. When you invest in things now while you're young, they will add value to your life as you get older. So get the book. It's available on Amazon, Nook, Kindle, Barnes & Noble, and also get my prayer journal. The new year is starting out. I have a prayer journal, The Journey to a Smile. It is a workbook. I'm going to start doing some classes online, and I want you all to look out for that. If you're ready to start your spiritual journey and your spiritual healing, this is the class for you. And I'll give you a little bit more information on that as we put it together. Now, Natalie, I always like to open up the podcast with prayers. So, would you open us with a short prayer, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
God, we thank you. God, we thank you for this day. God, we thank you for this opportunity, oh God. Lord, right now, God, you decrease us so that you can increase, God.
Yes.
Lord, let everybody get something from this, oh God. Yes. We thank you, God, for Miss Lisa, oh God. Continue to bless this podcast, oh God. Continue to bless her, oh God. Continue to bless her ministry as she shares, oh God, and touch each and every person that comes in contact with this ministry, oh God. Lord, just bless them and bless her, God. We thank you for this day, oh God. Each and every person that's watching, God, or listening, God, we thank you. In your son, Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen. And so, Natalie, once again, welcome to Finding Peace Within. Now, Natalie and her husband have a show called The Broken Windshield. Talk about that. Introduce yourself. Talk right into the mic. Now, you ain't shy. Talking to the mic, because y'all got mics at the house. Yes. Her husband sings with the Leviticus Singers of Charlotte, so we've known each other for a long time now.
Yes.
And they have their own YouTube channel and their show talking about marriage. So give us a little bit of information on that.
So The Broken Windshield, like she said, I'm Natalie Hancock. The Broken Windshield, it was just a vision that God had given us because, you know, Miss Lisa, you've been on this journey with us for a long time. Mm-hmm. You know a lot of the things that we've gone through. And it's a lot of what made us want to do, because it's a lot of things that stuff that we had known pre-marriage. And we wanted to just share some of our experiences and work that we've done within ourselves during marriage, and some of the work should have been done prior to marriage, but we didn't know. But that's God put on our heart to share our journey, even if it only helped one person.
Yeah.
But we were able, to be able to share our journey and what we've gone through. And even if you're married and you haven't done the work, it's not too late.
Right.
But what's important is that you do the work. Once you recognize there's work that needs to be done.
Yeah, and I've watched the show, and I love the show. I love it. And I was
so glad.
Look at my babies.
I know. It's so important because people just jump into marriages and they don't understand it's so much work that needs to be done prior to marriage.
Now, Natalie has a wide range of children.
Yes.
So let's talk about it, Natalie. Natalie has 5 children. right?
Yeah, 5.
Ranging from
20 to 2.
I cannot. And these are all her children, y'all.
Yes.
But Natalie, give us a little bit of background, and then we're going to get into the podcast. Share us a little bit about your history, because you got a 20-year-old who's a junior in college, and then you got this precious little Izzy.
Yes.
Who is 2?
My teenager.
Yeah, teenager. Teenager. Never heard that before.
Yes.
Teenager.
I felt, she's 2, but she's a
yeah. Well, she has two brothers. She has 3 brothers.
And an older sister.
Yes. So she's trying to find her way in doing what she's seeing being done in the house.
She's the boss of the house.
I'm sure she is. All right, so go ahead.
So I have, prior to me getting married
to
TJ, I had 2 children. I was a teen mom. I had my first child had just turned 17. I had my second child at 21. So I was a single parent for a long time until, I met him and we got married. Then he had no children.
Right.
And I was like, you don't have not one. You sure? Like, can you find a kid? Can you do something? Like,
I have a no kid.
I was like, so you positive you don't have just one child? Because he was during the time. He was 26 25 when we met. And really, this day and age, it's very rare to find a man find anybody 25 without a child.
Without a child.
Yeah. It's possible, but it's rare. So, we got married. I did agree. I said, God, if I find somebody and if it's meant I have children. So we did end up having, I didn't know 3 was in the cards, but God blessed us with 3.
Yeah.
But it's crazy because our journey to get Jackson was a long and hard journey. And I cried for many days because I didn't even know. I knew my husband's desire to have children, but I didn't even know if I was going to be able to birth children. And that was hard for me when I had already birthed 2 children because of fertility issues.
Yeah.
And you saying it, and if you're not grounded, and if you're not especially grounded in God, and it will take a toll on your marriage.
Yes, I'm sure.
It will take a toll. And every time, you get excited, oh, you pregnant, are you this, are you, and it's not. And doctor's appointments, try this medicine, try that. And one day he was like, no more medicines, nothing. And he just prayed and he was like, you will bear children, you will bring forth my children. But I didn't know it was going to be 3.
But it was actually 4.
It was 4, but I lost one.
Mm-hmm.
So I had no idea I was going to get pregnant 4 times.
Yeah.
Because it took me so long to get pregnant.
Look at God.
Most overflow.
Abundantly above all you can even ask or think.
Yes.
Well, we thank God for the addition to your family. Your children are they're so energetic, and Jackson calls me the superstar.
Yes.
And I actually found a shirt that says superstar. But Natalie, so you want to be a wife. Mm-hmm. And I've been reading the book, The Proverbs 31 Woman, a study guide by E.R. Reed.
I need to get that.
Hey, this is a good book.
It's so crazy because I said I was going to study out Proverbs 31.
Mm-hmm.
So many women they read to a certain point.
No.
And they don't dissect and actually understand what Proverbs 31, what it means to actually be a Proverbs 31 woman.
And that's what we're going to talk about today, because Christmas is next week, next Friday. Because when this airs, it'll be that Friday.
Yeah.
Men and women will be getting rings, I'm sure.
Yes.
And they will be getting rings on New Year's, and they'll probably get some rings for Valentine's and Mother's Day.
Yes.
So all
the most popular holiday.
That right there. So a lot of people will be getting some rings. But are they prepared to be a wife? I'm sure they got the dress picked out, they got the colors, they got the venue and all of that. But have they prepared? Today we're going to talk about I call it the Proverbs 31 PST. Proverbs 31 Woman PST. Preparation, substance, and trustworthiness.
Wow.
That's deep, right?
Mm-hmm.
Preparation. Now, I'm going to read a little bit from the book.
Okay.
One of the Proverbs 31's woman character is discipline.
Wow.
When we begin to practice discipline and self-control, we will have less trouble submitting to God. By learning to submit ourselves to God, we will have no trouble submitting to our husbands. Now, you're a wife, and y'all been married how long now?
Be 7 years on
in
January 1st.
Yes, 7 years. Preparation. What did you do? And I know you've already talked a little bit about that. With what you all do with your YouTube channel, the things that y'all didn't do preparing prior to saying I do. What were the things that now you know that you didn't know then that you wish you had known about you, about being a wife? Because here it says discipline, being prepared, getting ready to receive that husband.
Number one, I would have went to counseling myself.
Yeah.
And worked
so that's
out,
personal counseling.
I would have went to personal counseling and worked out some of issues and some trust issues that I had. And worked out some other issues, because as close as me and my daddy are, and he's, present, but I still had daddy issues.
Wow.
Because it was a lot of unanswered questions. It was a lot of, so even though he was, I still had daddy issues. And then not only that, I had just issues, period, from things that just, had just been carrying over from childhood.
Yeah.
So I would have did more personal development and more personal work to get rid of the childhood things.
What does that look like? Because we say personal development and we say deal with the issues. And I say counseling is as good as the truth you tell. So when you go to counseling and you're not telling the truth about what's going on, is it really helpful?
No. You have to be transparent, and you have to be able to dig deep. And you have to go all the way back. And the book, The Power of a Praying.
I have that book.
Yes.
The Power of a Praying Wife.
In one of the chapters, and it made me think, in one of the chapters she was saying, I think her and her husband had gotten into it one day, and she got so angry, but she had to really begin to pray and say, God, I need you to show me, what is this stemming from?
Yeah.
And what it was, she said, God began to show her, it's not you. Men do a lot more than women. They hold on to childhood stuff.
Because we'll talk about it.
Yeah. So they hold on to childhood stuff that carry over into adulthood. And you think they mad at you, and then
I remember that in the book.
Yeah, but really it's not you that they're mad at. They just have so much bottled up. So that's why it's so important to do the personal work. Because even when you do the personal work, even if your spouse hasn't done all the work, as the wife, you'll be able to recognize, okay, it ain't him. It's what's in him, what he's dealing with. Because childhood
Give
trauma,
me an example, Natalie.
For instance, I'm going to be transparent.
I want you to be transparent, and they want you to be transparent.
For instance, my husband is something, I can't remember the word. I'm being transparent, but I just can't remember. It was like certain words or certain stuff I would say to him. Not being like, not realizing. And I'm like, why would he go off the deep end like that? Who does this? And it started leading to like arguments. And then one day I had to say, okay, what is it when I do certain stuff? And he began to let me know it reminded him of something from his childhood.
Yeah.
So therefore, I was like, oh, don't take it personal. It's not me.
But why were you even responding that way?
I was responding that way because how he responded,
because were you reacting to something he did?
Yeah, reacting to something that he did. Because, for instance, I can't even remember what it was. Because to me, it was something
that's what happens right there.
It was something so tedious.
So small.
Yeah. So, for instance, I might tell him, I'm going to use this as an example. Why did you put the tissue on that way? I don't like my tissue that way. And it's something like trigger. I'm like, why you got an attitude? Because I talked to you about the tissue. So, and it could be later on for you. And something so small could lead to something so huge and you don't even know why. But I'm like, why did you react like that? Because it was something that triggered him from his childhood.
Yeah.
He was like, in that moment, you reminded me of my mom and not my wife.
That's it right there. Because men, first of all, and your sister-in-law said this, I'm not sleeping with nobody I'm raising. And I'm not raising nobody I'm going to be sleeping with.
Mm-hmm.
And husbands, men, wives, we cannot talk to our husbands like they are boys.
Cannot.
You cannot. I even asked my husband today, what do I need to do to keep you from putting your little things that he does when he does his beard in the toilet? What do I need to do? Because that makes me mad. That's water. That's money going down the drain. And he said, well, I said, so if I put a bag in there, will you use it? You know, and of course he said, yeah, put a bag in there. I was like, okay, because that's what I'm going to do. Because that right there is frustrating me. But what I didn't say, I don't know why you keep flushing that toilet.
Yes, I had to learn that. But once again, it sounds crazy, but it's personal development. Because why? I was a single mom for 12 years before
if you don't stop
along. So I was so used to talking to my kids that I didn't know how to talk to my husband. And then because of everything else that I was dealing with, past trauma, it spilled over into my marriage. So a lot of times I did talk to him like he was my child.
Right.
And he didn't feel like respect, like, okay, am I living with my wife? This is my wife, or is this my mother? And you cannot do that. You have to learn how to communicate and communicate in a positive way. Even if it's something that you don't like. Hey, you know, the other day I noticed you did XYZ. You know what, just learn how to communicate.
And I always put it back on me. Like I said, what can I do?
That's a good one. What can
I do to help myself not be upset about what you're doing?
Listen, and this is a good time to practice that, because with COVID, we're spending more time at home. You're spending more time with your spouse than you normally would. Mm-hmm. So it's like, it's a lot of stuff. I be like, why you do that? I'm like, I don't like it. But I'm learning to pick my battles.
Pick your battles.
And I'm like, why you leave your shoes beside the bed? Why you leave your shoes beside the bed? Normally I'm like, it's stupid. Why you yell? But we can't talk to them like they're our children or we're their mothers.
And then you got to find out, why am I so aggressive? Oh Lord, y'all! I have stuff written down everywhere. Okay, I have books, journals, everywhere. And I read something that I wrote a long time ago, and I'm probably gonna need a minute to find it. So we're gonna move on to our next. That's really good. It says married and unmarried women must also study parental responsibilities along with the spouse. Many scriptures that contain parental advice are in the previously mentioned scriptures that she shared in the book. Now, I know you and TJ have had some issues with parental raising your children, because you are blended. You really are. You're a blended family. So what conversations, in single ladies, these are the conversations, especially if you are engaged or have the desire to be a wife.
If you have children,
even if you don't have kids, you need to talk about the discipline part of raising children. What conversation do you and TJ have prior to you saying yes to being a wife to him?
I don't think we had much conversation when it came to discipline. And I wish we would have, because my husband is very old school.
Yes, he is.
Very old school.
Very.
And it's nothing wrong with that. And it took us going through some counseling to understand. And what happened is, he came in and I was a single parent, but I worked a lot. So I had a village. So everybody had a hand in raising my children. And because everybody else had a hand in raising them, it was some things that went unchecked, period. Because it's like, I'm not there and I'm at work and people, I'm like, don't call me. I can't come in and discipline them for something that I wasn't a part of. But it's very important to have that conversation. Now we're on the same page.
Yeah.
And also too, I feel like when it comes to discipline, you have to find your own balance. You have to find your own balance.
What works for our
house. Yeah. I understand what our parents might have did, but you have to find out what works for your house. And not only that, we live in a different time. And something that when we went to counseling, our pastor during the time that was counseling us, he was like, and even Matthew Stevenson, he did a thing, use it as a teachable moment. Not saying don't discipline, but let's be real, what did our parents do? They would discipline you, spank you, and you don't have any conversation. So what did you really learn?
And they did it again.
So I would say definitely have conversation about discipline. Find your own balance, what works for your house. And understand that we live in different times than when we were younger.
So I didn't mean to cut you off. So when TJ would discipline the kids, what did you do? Because with Adrian, I was married 23, I think, and Adrian was 5, something like that. And so my first husband would, whip him, because I got beaten a lot of them. So that was nothing uncommon. But some of the things I thought he kind of went overboard with. But I never intervened with him disciplining him. I really would just pretty much cry because he would just beat him. He would beat him so bad he would have to drink vinegar to keep his pressure from going so high. He would just beat him that bad.
Oh wow.
And again, we didn't have that conversation about what to do with disciplining. And so I didn't intervene. So did you intervene and say, hey, T, no, that's too much? Or did you let him be the dad?
I did intervene, but I had to learn, like, it was a time and a place to intervene, and it's not the place to do it in front of the children. Yeah. You have to get on the same page, and you just have to be on the same understanding. And when you have a blended family, and this another we should have talked about, because when you have a blended family, it's important for the parent that's coming in, whether husband or wife, to understand your routine and how things work. Because if they don't understand it, and then that other person comes in and just start changing, the kids are going to be looking crazy. And then to the other person, they disrespectful, they're this, they're that. In reality, they're not. It's just that they're used to their routine being one way, and then all of a sudden it's flipped. So that's why it's important to have the conversation. And then you also have to find balance, and you kind of have to understand, like, okay, what is your routine?
Yeah.
Let me kind of fall in place, and then we can adjust it accordingly. And I feel like if that happens and you have those conversations, it will avoid a lot of issues that you have when you have a blended family.
A lot of fights and a lot of you ain't my daddy, and you ain't my mama.
Yes. You will avoid a lot of those because it is hard. Like especially when you have older children. Younger children, it's a little bit easier. But if you have kids that are older, teenagers, and you come in and like they just been going to bed, they ain't been washing no dishes. It's like, who are you to come say you gotta wash these dishes? And it's like, you really can't get mad if they be like, well, I haven't been washing dishes. So you have to kind of find out what your routine, what the routine of the house is.
Yes.
And then you fall in place there, and then you come together and adjust it. And I wish we had to learn it early on, but we learned it now. And so I feel like now, no household is perfect, but I feel like our household runs smoother than it did 5-6 years ago. Yeah. And we can adjust, because now we'll have conversations like, he might be like, hey, I feel like, like the other day, he was like, okay, Isaiah, he'll come and cook and just put his dishes in here. I was like, yeah, you're right. I was like, so I'll make sure I had a conversation. Isaiah, even if because now with us being home, I usually wouldn't use a dishwasher, but I use it now, faithfully, because we're home all day.
We're home all day.
And I'm constantly buying paper. And I was like, listen, when you cook, wash your dishes. And even if it's dishes in the sink, rinse them out, load them in the dishwasher, start to load dishes. That's all you have to do. He was like, okay, cool. That's no problem.
It's all about communication.
Communication. And I'm going to be honest. 5 years ago, before I had Jackson, we probably couldn't have had that conversation because I would have been off like, what you know. But it's all about growth, understanding, and finding balance. And then when we did go through counseling and we did personal self-development and then we did work together, it helped us understand like, okay, I can't parent how our parents parent. We have to find our own way. Because let's be real, like our parents did the best that they did with what they had.
With the information
that they had at the time.
And they only did what their parents did.
But let's be real, we're parenting a totally different generation.
We are. Ooh, Father.
And beating them, just like beating them doesn't work. You have to have conversations like, why did you do that?
I heard, I'm a huge fan of Married at First Sight. And so Woody and Amani had this conversation about children.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a school teacher. And he said, oh yeah, I'm going to whip my kids. And she was like, you're not going to be whipping my kids. And she said, do you whip your students when they do things bad?
That's a good
and he was like, I never looked at it that way. She said, well, we're going to treat our children like we do your students. You have conversation with them. You let them know what your expectations are and the consequences.
Right.
From not meeting those expectations. You're going to sit in time. Well, of course, we don't have that time out. But you got to teaching moments.
You do.
Here's what I was looking for. It says a dominant female, and we're going to say wife, brings chaos in the home.
Sure does. What I learned is, as a wife,
a dominant wife brings chaos in the home, ladies. Pull back.
Because we control the atmosphere in our house.
Yes, you do.
We control, because sometimes when I get up and I'm in a good mood, it seems like my whole house is in chaos. But when I shift, I'm like, okay, God, I need you to shift this and shift me quickly. My whole house will shift.
So that right there is telling you cannot do this without knowing the Lord.
You can't.
You can't do it without knowing the Lord, because there is no way. Here it says, children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with the promise, so that it may be well with you. This is important. Fathers, do not exasperate your children. Instead, bring them up in the training instructions of the Lord. Therefore, we teach them the word of God. The Lord gave us laws. He gave us order. Of course, we have grace now, but those things are still in place. There are some things that Jesus Christ still expects from us. And these are the consequences. Now, he going to beat you, but it won't be with no belt. But there will be a consequence.
And everything is a
teachable moment. So when we talk about being a wife, and we're bringing all of this testosterone, because we got some in us too. My husband used to say, "You talking a little heavy."
I think it comes from when you've been especially like when you have been independent for so long, and you only depended on yourself. You did everything. You don't know how to back. And then I think some women don't understand what it really means to be submissive. Some women think submissive means controlling, but that's not.
That's not what it is. It's submitting to the best will of the family. What is best? It could be your idea. It could be his idea. But what is going to help the family most? And he be the one to say, okay, this is what we're going to do. And if you don't agree with the decision, then it's called have a prayer closet.
Yes.
And get on your knees and
pray. I've learned, and I've said this multiple times, and when I tell you that when I learned to shut up and pray, that's the moment my marriage took the biggest shift.
Shut up and...
I need to get that on the t-shirt.
Shut up.
When I learned to shut up, like literally shut my mouth and pray. Because the best weapon is prayer. My whole marriage shifted.
I'm sure.
I feel like that's when the breaking point in my marriage came.
Because we control the house, y'all. We are the managers. Now, the S in our PST is substance. It says she is not superficial, nor is she flirty. She is deep. Once she is together, her spirit will impact how she takes care of that which is outside of her. She is not superficial. And I'm talking, I don't wear false eyelashes. I don't wear false nails. I don't talking about stuff like that. We're talking about the spirit of the woman. Don't present your representative. Be who you gonna be.
But that's all a part of doing work, because if you don't do the work prior to a marriage, you're only going, your representative is who's going to show up.
Exactly. And then when you have to come out and have a real conversation with your husband, he gonna be looking like, now, where's the person that you were when we were dating?
But Miss Lisa, this is the thing I'm noticing, because I've known a lot. I've known with our generation, a lot of people don't have conversations
because they're on social media.
They're not having pre-marriage conversations, and then they get married, and like, who is this person?
Yeah,
I didn't. Like, you didn't have this conversation before you got married?
He didn't pick
now,
up
I
his
will
clothes.
say it is work that needed to be done prior to marriage that me and TJ still needed to do. But one thing I will say, we had multiple conversations about stuff, and we didn't go into anything blind about what the other wanted. Was there work that needed to be done? Yes. But it was conversations about our expectations and what we wanted and what we expected. So when we got, it wasn't any surprises that he wanted children. Right. I hear people say, like, I didn't want kids, but they want. Y'all didn't have this conversation prior to marriage about, like
you didn't know that he didn't want kids, or did he not know that you couldn't have any?
Right.
That part, because I've heard that story too.
Yeah.
Some of the husbands didn't even know she couldn't have
children.
Kids.
They did not tell you.
Devastated.
I had a conversation with a young lady, and she couldn't have children because she got her tubes tied, and she was dating someone, and they didn't have children. He wanted children, and I was like, "Are you going to tell him that you can't because your tubes are tied?" She's like, "No, I'm just going to enjoy the ride and see where it takes me." I said, "You can't do that.
You can't do that.
You cannot do that. You cannot do that." So
I'm sure brought a wedge between them.
Yeah, they're not together, but it's like you have to have that conversation. I tell people, don't rob people of that.
A Proverbs 31 woman is also, and I know you and TJ are huge on this, entrepreneurship.
Yes.
She already has her, because Natalie is a hairstylist. She already has her plan, because, and this is the thing, and I didn't get you to do it, to talk about Adam and Eve. You know, when God created Eve, he took her out of his rib and he gave her to Adam, and Adam didn't have to do anything for her. But she came already equipped to help him with what the Lord had already assigned him to do in the garden. And he had to tell her and teach her the ways, because she didn't know the way, but she was still equipped.
And that's important.
Talk about that.
So I knew I was already equipped, but once again, it's important to do the work so that when your husband, especially if he's a man of God, when God gives him a vision, it's our, as the wife, when God gives your husband a vision, it's our duty to birth the vision out.
Yeah, because they don't have a womb.
They
have a seed.
So it's
so
our
in the natural spirit.
It's our duty to birth the vision out. So in order to birth the vision, you have to be equipped. If you're not equipped, you can't birth his vision. First of all, make sure he has the vision before you even say I do. Because if he doesn't have a vision, he can't lead your family.
And you gotta know that you are equipped and
to birth.
And the reason why I say that, because my husband and I, obviously I'm birthing a whole lot of stuff out for him. But,
that part. I never understood. Oh my God, it's so much now that like 3, 4, 5, I never understood. But once again, Miss Lisa, when I learned to shut up and pray, God began to reveal so much stuff. And I'm gonna have a transparent moment. The other day, my husband made me mad about something. I was like, okay, God, Are you sure? I just picked up. I was like, what? Because so my husband, he has a vision, but it's like sometimes I feel like he gets stumbled and he gets stuck. Not that he doesn't want to do it, but sometimes he doesn't have the confidence. Sometimes he lacks the confidence in himself.
Yeah.
And I felt like he was having that moment the other day, and I just felt like he was all over the place. And I was giving him a word that God spoke to me, and I felt like he kind of dismissed it. And I had to just get up, and I was like, you know what? Let me go upstairs.
Yeah.
And I'm going to come back. And I had to really pray, because at that moment, the devil would try to play. I'm at a crossroad. I was like, I can't do this no more, God.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I can't. I was like,
wow.
You gave him this vision. You're putting the opportunities before him. But sometimes I feel like his confidence is not where it should be.
So that goes with one of the other questions that I asked last week. Do you have the ability to suffer with him as he heals?
You have to. Because if not, you're not going to make it.
Do I have the inner strength to suffer with him while he heals, and vice versa? So in that moment, when you saw your husband, who you know has a vision, who is stuck, do you say, I don't know why you sitting down, running off at the mouth? Or do you encourage him? Babe, I know you can do it. I believe in you, and we can do it together.
You encourage him. But the other day I had a moment. I got up, I had to go upstairs. I was mad. And I had to just go into worship, and I had to begin to pray like, okay, God, you have me in this place. You have us in this place. And you have us here. But I was like, I'm going to be honest. I'm having a moment. I'm mad right now. And I don't want to do this no more. So that's why I had to go. I just got up because I didn't want it to leave. Yeah. I didn't want to be in my flesh. Yeah. So I was like, okay. I was like, I'm going to leave you. And I went and I began to worship. Yeah. And I began to cry out to God like, okay, God, we're here because this is where you told me to be. We're at this very moment because he has this vision, and you're making provision, and I'm birthing it out of him. But right now it's like he's stuck in the delivery room. He's stuck in labor. Like, we can't labor forever. You got to deliver. And I just began to just I had to really dig deep and really worship and pray. And I was like, God, I was like, my flesh right now wants to say I'm done. Right. But I can't, because it's my duty, and it's my duty as his wife to his deliverance. Until it happens. Until it happens.
Trustworthiness says her husband has full confidence in her and lacks nothing of value. He has full confidence in her and lacks no value. Our husbands trust us with the household affairs. We ought to be prudent in our spending, not foolishly wasting the family's resources. Let's talk about that, because you guys have been through some ups and y'all been through some hills and some valley lows. And y'all are now you're on your way out. I think you all are out now. Yeah. And the Lord has sustained you. There have been some moments when you've had to really make some sacrifices.
We had to make a lot. We have. And Ms. Lisa, you've been on this journey with us for a long time. When we first started dating, right before we got married, I was doing hair, and I also worked full-time in insurance. And we both had really good jobs. So we were a little bit younger. And we spent very foolishly, we made sure every household stuff was taken care of, but we wasted a lot of money too. I'm just going to be honest. Yeah. Because the money was there. But as you grow and as you mature, you really learn, and God has really taken us. Matter of fact, we just came out of our wilderness in May. Last November, we was at a crossroads where we was living. it was a back and forth about renewing the lease, about the amount of the rent, all of that. And matter of fact, last October. And I was like, okay, we'll just go. I'm not going back and forth with them or whatever. And it was one of our friends thought we got evicted. And I'm like, no, we had the money. It was just a back and forth. And I remember sitting in the garage at the computer, and I was doing something, and TJ opened the door. He was like, let's pack. And I was like, what? I was like, where are we going? He was like, God said we got to close this chapter. I was like, are you sure? Because I'm about to go ahead and tell the lady, because actually our lease was up. It was just, yeah. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'm just going to go ahead and we're just going to go ahead. He was like, no, God said, close it. Tell her we'll be out by. I was like, where are we about to go? We have nowhere to go. Is he crazy? Like, and God began to speak like, trust me. Mm-hmm. Let me show myself. I have to show myself to, show myself. I was like, okay, God. So we began to pack, put our stuff in storage. Isaiah went to my mom's, India was on. Me, TJ, and the kids, we went to my sister's. Mm-hmm. And we were there longer than we thought. And then a pandemic hit. And then TJ ended up going on medical leave because he was supposed to have surgery. He didn't have surgery. Yep. Then it was a whole big ordeal with his pay. So from January until May, literally 2 weeks before we moved, we was living off of my income, which I was only working part-time for PNC, which wasn't a lot of money. Right. And we've been shifted in so many ways, but we still stood. We went from my sister's house, and then we was back and forth at my mom's house. Then the pandemic hit, and everybody started panicking. We was in a hotel for we was in a hotel for 3 weeks because I was like, okay, we just got to figure this out. Then we ended up at my sister-in-law's house, and then we went through this one company that we had went to for our previous house, and everything kept falling through. And it's so crazy because God, right before the pandemic, God had spoke to me when we was in church, told me what company to apply for. Because we had been in the process of trying to clean up our credit because we had some stuff and we had been denied before. God said, go to this company, apply to this company. So I told TJ, he was like, I don't know, because we trying to get our credit cleaned up. We keep taking hits. We keep doing this. I was like, okay. So we went to this other lady that we knew. She was like, I can help you. I was like, okay. So, of course, if people think you have, quote-unquote, bad credit, they charge you all this money. And as we was sitting there, God began to speak to me. As I handed her my $350, he told me, no, do it. This is not where we're supposed to be. Wow. But I was like...
The power of a praying woman.
And he spoke to me in that moment as TJ was handing her that check. And I was like, oh, my God. I was like, I don't think we're supposed to be here. But it's like, you're so desperate because you're like, I ain't used to living with nobody. And it's like, okay, we're going to give her this. And I'm telling every house that we're supposed to get, it fell through. And she was like, okay, I have this in an apartment. And I was like, I can't live in no apartment with no 4 kids. I can't do it. So I began, and so by then, TJ was all... I was like, and I just began to pray. And as we was driving down the street, I was like, well, let's go look at this. He's like, I'm sick of looking at it. I was like, let's go. I was like, do you remember the word that God gave me? Well, this is the company that we need to apply for. God told us to trust him. Mm-hmm. And let me back up. Right when the house fell through, we had went to some kind of service. And we wasn't going to go because he didn't want to take the kids, but we ended up going. But when I tell you, that man gave us a word, he didn't even know us. And he said, God is going to give you. He didn't even know that we didn't have nowhere to live. Right. He said, quit saying you're homeless. You're not homeless. He's like, and if he said in the house that you was in prior to, you didn't lose it. You sold it because what God is getting ready to take you, he has to prove to people and show people that he is still God and that he can still work miracles. Yes. And he's going to give you He's going to place y'all. He's going to give y'all a house that exceeds your income. That